Hello, sisters and brothers. Our devotional for today, for July 3, is a reflection on My Utmost for His Highest, a series of devotionals written and compiled by Oswald Chambers. You can always find the link for the daily devotional at utmost.org. And for today's text, we will turn to the beginning of Isaiah chapter 6. I'll read the first 5 verses there. Isaiah 6, verse 1. In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord high and exalted, seated on a throne, and the train of his robe filled the temple. Above him were seraphim, each with 6 wings. With 2 wings they covered their faces, with 2 they covered their feet, and with 2 they were flying. And they were calling to one another, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord Almighty. The whole earth is full of his glory. At the sound of their voices, the doorposts and thresholds shook, and the temple was filled with smoke. Woe to me, I cried. I am ruined, for I am a man of unclean lips, and I live among a people of unclean lips, and my eyes have seen the King, the Lord Almighty. Chambers titles this devotional The Concentration of Personal Sin, looking at that last verse we just read there where Isaiah says, Woe is me, for I am undone, because I am a man of unclean lips. When I come into the very presence of God, I do not realize that I am a sinner in an indefinite sense, but I suddenly realize, and the focus of my attention is directed toward the concentration of sin in a particular area of my life. A person will easily say, oh yes, I know I am a sinner, but when he comes into the presence of God, he cannot get away with such a broad and indefinite statement. Our conviction is focused on our specific sin, and we realize, as Isaiah did, what we really are. This is always the sign that a person is in the presence of God. There is never any vague sense of sin, but of focusing on the concentration of sin in some specific personal area of life. God begins by convicting us of the very thing to which His Spirit has directed our mind's attention. If we will surrender, submitting to His conviction of that particular sin, He will lead us down to where He can reveal the vast underlying nature of sin. That is the way God always deals with us when we are consciously aware of His presence. This experience of our attention being directed to our concentration of personal sin is true in everyone's life, from the greatest of saints to the worst of sinners. When a person first begins climbing the ladder of experience, he might say, I don't know where I have gone wrong. But the Spirit of God will point out some definite and specific thing to them. The effect of Isaiah's vision of the holiness of the Lord was the directing of his attention to the fact that he was a man of unclean lips. He touched my mouth with it and said, Behold, this has touched your lips, your iniquity is taken away, and your sin purged. Verse 7 of that same chapter. The cleansing fire had to be applied where the sin had been concentrated. I don't know about you, but when I grew up, and even still now, talking about sin often comes in those broad, vague terms. Yes, I'm a sinner saved by grace, and yes, I know that I'm guilty of sin, and He paid the debt for my sins. But to come face to face with God, to have that direct relationship where all of a sudden you realize there are parts of me that are unclean. There are parts of me that I have not surrendered. I have not given over, and they need to be cleansed. That's a totally different experience. And we don't always talk about our specific sins very directly and very openly. And it's not that we need to go around telling everyone what our sins are, but we should, first of all, begin by having that conversation with God. God, I sinned in this way. God, I know that I did this. And therefore bringing it to the surface, bringing it to light so that it can be cleansed. Because we all are guilty, as Romans 3:23 will tell us, we've all fallen short. But we do have to come in contact, come into relationship with God face to face, so that we can really have the Spirit direct the Spirit's attention to those areas of our life that need to be cleansed. It's all for the best, right? It's all for the good. We want to be in a right relationship with God, and in order to do so, we have to have those close encounters with God, so that certain things can be revealed, brought to light, cleansed and purged so that we may be continuously equipped for his service. Thank you as always for listening. Be safe and stay well.